Okay, since the API is down, I gotta go to the helm to get all the exotics I need. But trust me when I tell you, I got a lot of shit on Titan today. And I mean a lot of shit on Titan. And, I'm hoping that my bot will work, but there's a small chance it will not. So I'm gonna show off some things that I don't need a test dummy to show off. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more, aka part 3 of this, just remember to tell me in the comments. If there's any build I forget, don't forget to tell me. Anyway, enjoy the video. Now, I'm hoping last video didn't feel very targeted towards warlocks and I want them nerfed, but it's more of just showing the fact on how much on a class there actually is. There's still more on warlocks I haven't covered, and I will later. But for this video, my main priority is Titans, and I don't have every single exotic already, but I have a lot of them that I want to show off, and I have more that I want to show off even more. Now, of course, strand might be a little problem because I don't have everything unlocked, but I'll try to explain everything as much as possible if I can explain it, Now, one of the first exotics I want to explain is Precious Scars. Now, this exotic works the best in something like Rift or Countdown. And the reason I say those two game modes is because whenever you revive someone, right, the whole point of Precious Scars is to revive someone. So final blows from weapons with the damage type matching your subclass creates a burst of healing around you. After reviving or being revived, you gain an aura that provides overshield to you and your nearby allies. And the aura is really big. You can probably say the aura is like from this ball to this ball, probably even further. It's like a really big circle around you. And as long as people are in it, they get an overshield. And it's actually really good. It's probably one of the better ways. And you can on top of that stack that with like Void Barricade Bastion. And then you have suddenly 2 overshields. And now you're chillin'. And let me just show you off one of the exotics that I find the most ridiculous. So we can go with Hoarfrost on Stasis Titan. You want to rock something like Tectonic Harvest, Hollow the Storm. The reason I say these two is because if you read here, shattering a stasis crystal creates a stasis shard. This shard grants melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. While sliding, activate your charge melee ability to launch a wave of stasis energy forward that freezes targets and creates stasis crystals. Now, what you can do, what a lot of people do is run Whisper of Rending, but I'm not going to show that off. I'm going to use Whisper of Fissures, increase the damage and size of the burst of a stasis crystal when destroyed, stasis crystal, or defeated frozen targets. This one makes a really big impact, especially if you're trying to, especially if you try to make people move around, because it's going to force them to move. And collecting a stasis crystal grants a small amount of overshield. With a fall off of 10 seconds, collecting additional shards and adds to the overshield and refreshes the timer. Stays slow from your abilities last longer. Those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. This one is replaceable. This is just what I use. And then you have Shattering a Stasis Crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge. Shattering additional stasis crystals increases the duration of this benefit. And I don't actually have the best weapon for this. You want to use something like, for this most people use something like Cerberus +1. And you're probably wondering, are you crazy? Cerberus is shit. And you might be right, but just to show this off, I'm going to use Whisper of Rending. So what I would do is, do like this, do this, and do this. And then now you just destroy the crystals. Look at my health. I have a full overshield, and look at my melee. I already have it back. I can do this again. And then bam, bam, bam. Of course, this works a lot better if you play with multiple people, which I currently don't. So if you're 3-stacking on Behemoth Titan, you can use this. And as you can see on my thing, I have a lot of debuffs going on currently whenever I pick him up. Tectonic Harvest is for my melee, and then you have Improved Ability Regen, which is for my grenade, and then you have Stasis Overshield, which is for my overshield. And every time I pick up a Stasis Crystal, I get that buff. And this is really, really good. And that's one of the stasis builds I like. The one I preferably use is something like Cryoclasm with Diamond Lance. And then I use everything that gives me a stat buff, so I get the best stats possible. Which means I don't go with something like Rime. I go with Fissures because I want to be able to shatter people if they're too close. And the exotic of choice I would use is PKs. I would use something like With the Horde with Chayora's Wrath. Now, my mobility is a little bit high. This is not what I actually want to. The best possible mobility I can get is something like 5. And the reason 5 is because PKs, they give you an additional +5 mobility whenever you have an SMG in your hand. So if you read here, reload stowed submachine gun and allows you to ready them instantly, which means you don't need anything like dexterity. What you would want is something whatever the other weapon is. Sadly, my Wither Horde has max handling, so the only thing that would change is the animation scaler. Improves your handling with submachine guns and your movement while wielding one. Provides a moderate benefit to airborne effectiveness stat of submachine guns. And this is great enough to be able to perfectly hit shots in the air. You should not really need anything else for AE at all whatsoever. But what this allows me to do is basically it allows me to, have a lot of map control with this loadout, and it also allows me to move really fast. Now if I wanted to do something else, I could equip Elemental Capacitor, and if you read here, moderately controls recoils and increased movement speed while aiming down sights. So if I ADS, I move incredibly fast. Just remember, you cannot run while ADSing. Let me put on a different submachine gun to see the difference. This is a lightweight, so remember, of course it's going to be fast. But this SMG, if it was a lightweight one with it, this is faster than a lightweight SMG, which is incredible by itself. And since this is the most precision frame SMG in the game, aka does the most damage out of any SMG in the game, it's really good. It allows me to move really fast and have a very fast strafe speed while playing. And trust me, it works a lot better than you think, but I would preferably use something like Kill Clip, because when I'm in that 1v3 situation, Kill Clip comes in clutch. And trust me, when I'm on this loadout, I'm playing to win. I can lock off areas with my Wither Horde, I can throw stasis crystals, and I have another tech to show you, but I need my bot for it first. Speaking about the bot, it seems like it's here. Now, of course, you have an exotic like Armamentarium, and it allows you to get 2 crystals, which is really good for a lot of situations. And you can use this however you want. Just remember, it doesn't work with Arc, with Touch of Thunder, using something like Lightning Grenade, because you cannot have more than 2 grenades at a time. But it basically allows me to do something like this, build my own little fort. And since I'm on Cryoclasm, I can just slide over it and break all of it. And let me tell you, it does a lot more damage than you think. Now, if you're on Behemoth Titan, a cool thing that you can show off is something like this, and it allows you to insta-kill someone with your melee. Now you're wondering, Nico, how did you just do that? So what I like to do is use my charge melee, right, like this. When I hit someone, I instantly punch, and it should allow you to instantly kill them with your melee. It will allow you to cancel your melee animation and instantly punch again. That's literally it. Also, this bases off your connection, so I'm testing it on a bot which basically has 0 ping, which makes it a lot harder for me to proc. But as you just saw, I managed to pull it off. So, it's all about how fast you can mash your keys. So if you can spam melee often, then you're chillin'. And a thing I like to do, for example, is something like this. I would run up to the enemy, I would instigate with them, and then I would place down my barricade, damage them a little bit, throw my stasis crystal, and then bam, it kill them. Usually it does over half their health very easily, and then I get a diamond lance that I can throw on someone else, and they're frozen. Now, of course, you have other weapons like, oh, this is awkward, I don't have space, Bungie, fix your video game. Okay, now that I have my Izzy shot, you saw I just reloaded and compressed all the 4 bullets into one, and I now have honed edge times 4. Something a lot of people know, and some people don't know, is the fact that Izanagi can body shot people. All you need is 4 shots or 3 shots with a damaging buff. But what you can do is do that. As you saw, I just did 393 damage to his body. And one thing I like to do on Stasis Titan, with Cryoclasm specifically, is run something like the 4th Horseman with Antaeus Wards. And what it allows you to do is basically just slide at people, with them not being able to do anything back. So when you see you have the reflect vents up, you see all you can do is something like this. And there's not really anything they can do, because any shot they shoot back will ricochet. That's the really annoying part about Antaeus Wards. It gives you a literal shield that can block absolutely everything. The only way that I really know that you can die from it is if something hits you, doesn't hit you directly, but it has splash damage. So a T-crash hits you on the side, not directly, hits you on the side. A Nova Bomb, if it hits you on the shield, it will reflect it back. As you just saw, I took a Nova Bomb to the face. That didn't work as well as I wanted to. It's supposed to just ricochet back onto the target. But you know, I mean, I guess that works. Let me try that again. I guess that's the best you can do with Slova Bomb. It does work with something like Vortex, Big Stick on Hunter, the Stasis Pickaxe on Hunter. You know, basically anything that's a projectile can be ricocheted back. It works with rockets, grenade launchers, literally anything. And you know, this is just Stasis Titan. Now, I can go into other subclasses as well, and I'm going to. So the next one I'm going to go into is Strand Titan. The first exotic I'm going to need, though, is an exotic I don't actually have. So I'm going to have to pull it from collections. So what these boots allow you to do is Dredgen's Lash spawns in 2 additional projectiles, tracks the target more aggressively and travels further, gain Woven Mail when suspending a target. Now, if you know what Woven Mail does, your body is encased in a protective mesh of tight woven strand matter, greatly reducing any incoming precision damage. So what it goes from, let me just take a look at this guy. Let's suspend him real quick. Let me throw my shackle grenade. So what a normal shot does with this Hinkin will be something like 40 to my body. And then if I suspend him, and then wait for him to actually lose it, he hits me for 38. What a significant difference, am I right? But what I can do is something like this. I clearly haven't used these exotics enough. But something I can do is something like this. And then those are gonna hit him. As you saw, I tracked him. The one that went this direction went like this, and then straight at him. And he is stuck in third person floating in the air. If you haven't gotten suspended yet, you know it's a pretty broken ability. And it allows you to do a lot of corners and tight angles that people can't really peek. You can also align them so they go around the corner like this. If I look like this and I do this, it's gonna go around the corner, and if he's hiding right there, it's gonna suspend him. And with right there, I mean like right here. It will hit him and suspend him, even if he's not peeking, which I think is pretty crazy. You can make watermelon builds on Titan, and there is a lot of stuff that's coming next season that will make all the strand subclasses more busted. But Woven Mail is not really that crazy in PvP. The only thing that it's good for on Hunters specifically is the fact that it removes flinch. One of my favorite combos on Titan is probably going something like Last Word or DMT with Lion Rampant. Now, what I would usually just do is go with Arc, and then, you know, it is what it is. But the reason I go specifically with Lion Rampants is because then I can, you know, fly around and hit shots a lot better. Now that was a pretty bad example, but it gives you a really good hipfire accuracy. Let's show off something like Last Word, because if you know, I'm on mouse and keyboard, and Last Word is not really the greatest weapon on mouse and keyboard if you have played the game since Forsaken. Look, I'm floating in the air. So the way Lion Rampants work is basically provides additional aerial movement, whatever the fuck that word says, and enables accurate hipfire while you're in the air during lift. Provides a large benefit to airborne effectiveness. Stat of all weapons while hipfiring, aka 50 AE. Now, I want to show off conditional finality, but I realized the bot doesn't actually have, you know, Well of Radiance. What it allows you to do, though, is basically one-shot anyone instead of Well of Radiance. Okay, let me just talk about one of my favorite exotics. Peregrine Greaves. Peregrine Greaves is probably the most brain-dead exotic in the game, I'd say by far. It's probably one of the most consistent exotics for a melee subclass, and it allows you to do something like this. If you saw the number correctly, it's at 510. Now, if you're on Void Titan, aka Sentinel, if you read what offensive bulwark does, While you have an overshield, increase your Ward of Dawn, your grenade recharges significantly faster, you have increased melee range and damage, and your melee final blows extends the duration of the overshield. AKA you run Bastion, Offensive, Bulwark, and then what you want to do is something like this. Once I get my... This is awkward. Once I get my thing up, what I can do is something like this. I plop down my overshield, and just look at the damage number. It did 300 damage to his super. If I don't kill him specifically, I will just suppress him. And the cool thing about that is, he will just go out of his super instantly. Now, all the different shoulder charges has different effects. If you're on arc, it will blind him. If you're on solar, it will burn him. And if you're on void, it will suppress him. And there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. I don't really use offensive bulwark at all, because I don't really play around my melee like that. If I wanted to use offensive bulwark, I would use it, but I just don't. And that's with an overshield. Look how low health he is. It basically leaves him one shot. And I personally think this is really strong, and, you know, I'm not going to say anything about it. No backup plans is a really cool exotic, and I'm pretty sure it's getting a change next season. It says, when you have full void melee energy, final shotgun blows grants void overshield and consumes your melee energy. Shotgun final blows also gives you melee energy. Provides a moderate benefit to airborne effectiveness. Now, AE doesn't really matter on shotguns whatsoever. But what's so cool about this is if you're in a very tight fight, you slide in, bam, you get an overshield, and guess what? Your melee will increase damage, which means it's gonna require you a lot less effort to get the next kill. And people think that doesn't sound that crazy, but it is a lot better than it actually sounds. Because as I just showed you before, if I plop down my overshield and punch someone with a normal punch, let's see how much damage that actually does. So if I do this, bam, and then I run just straight at him, it does 121 damage. I wonder how much this would do. 73 damage? That's crazy. I wonder how much it would do with offensive bulwark. 63. 61, I mean. So it goes from 61 to 73 damage. I wish that shield throw was better, but they really just ain't. Void Titan is definitely one of the better subclasses in the game by far. And it has a lot of cool benefits like, you know, this. 10 plus 41, and this is without offensive bulwark. This is why I don't use offensive bulwark whatsoever. Because I gain a melee that will volatile the enemy. Basically, hitting a target with a void ability or volatile explosion makes them volatile. Further damage to a volatile target causes them to explode. Grants near you and nearby allies health when volatile targets explode. And I think that's really, really good. Now, what a lot of people have been running is something like offensive bulwark with controlled demolition. So if you have a Titan on your team, for example, with Bastion, what you can do is something like this. Because what you usually would run is something with a overshield. But since you don't have the overshield, what you can do is like that. Look how weak he is. And literally anything is going to make him explode and heal you. Void Titan is really, really strong. Probably one of the strongest subclasses in the game. It gives you infinite amount of health. And the reality of it, it's not probably going to get nerfed anytime soon. I hope I can show this off before the game ends. If not, I'm going to be very upset. Now, one of my favorite things in this video game is the fact that something like a stupid exotic exists. And as you just saw, I just one-shot him with my melee. All it required was him to punch me once. And you're probably wondering, how did I make that happen? Nothing can do that, right? Of course, Lars Handshake is in the game, but literally all it requires him to punch me once. And oh my god. Okay. Let me get into another power match. Okay, anyway, let me go back to what I was doing. So, a cool thing about Striker Titan is you can use something like Death from Above or Ballistic Slam, And you can run something like Dune Marcher if you put on all the things I was using beforehand before I removed everything to try to make myself Titan Skate, which was a waste of time. This would not be an issue. Now, this basically allows you to do something very silly. But if you run something like Dune Marcher, you're gonna get a very consistent one-shot melee on a lot of people, especially if you're slamming into a group of people, because Dune Marcher chains, and as you see, I did 131, and Dune Marcher does around 50 damage, 60 damage, I'm not too sure. But if you use something like Synthoceps, right? If there's 3 or more people, you proc Bionic Enhancement. Increase the melee lunge range, improved melee and super damage when surrounded. Surrounded means 3 or more people, or 3 or more enemies. It basically gives you a consistent one-shot because it doubles your melee damage, I'm pretty sure. And trust me, I've made videos on this in the past to show how absolutely busted this is, and it truly does work. But the most branded one is definitely AC/DC. It's mainly the fact that you can let someone punch you. Oh my god. It's mainly the fact that you can let someone punch you and then you can one-shot them back. Just like that. Because how this works, okay, is melee hits builds up energy. Being struck by a melee attack reduces the incoming damage and unleashes the energy in a devastating explosion. And then you pair that with something like Spark of Instinction. While critically wounded, taking damage emits a burst of arc energy that jolts targets. On top of that, you have Spark of Resistance, which works when you're surrounded, aka 3 or more enemies, which is, while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. And then on top of that, you can use Spark of Feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. So it literally just allows you to one-shot people with your melee. That is it. And then you have the blind on Titan, which is really good. And let's go on over to Solar. I feel like I kind of explained everything on Titan. Juggernaut gives you a shield that will literally take any bullet in the game. Any super hit, anything. It will tank anything in the game as long as you have your barricade up or your thruster. Which is why people use thruster if they usually run Juggernaut. But barricade is superior. It just kinda is. But Touch of Thunder, Knockout, and Juggernaut are all 3 solid choices. And Juggernaut is getting buffed next season, aka getting another fragment slot. Anyway, let me go over to Solar. And in theory, it should one. Oh my god. But listen, gang. In theory, this should be able to one-shot people. Now, it doesn't seem that well made, but trust me, if it hits, it hits. And, you know, it's a really cool thing that you can have an exotic that just allows you to throw, you know, dodgeballs. And the dodgeball, like in real life, when you get hit, you're out. So, all you do is just... Oh my god, I missed. Anyway, you see what the build does. So, this requires a little bit of setup, but if you can get this to go, it will work really, really well. It all depends on your Roaring Flames. Final blows with solar abilities or ignitions increase the damage of your solar abilities, stacks up to 3 times. You run this with fusion nades on top of Ashen Wake. Ashen Wake, fusion grenades now explode on impact and you gain increased throw speed. Final blows with fusion grenades grants grenade energy. So it does allow you to just throw a lot of balls if you can kill them. But this does indeed require a kill. So if I show it off like this, let's see how much grenade energy I get back. I got it back instantly. And even though this is Mayhem, the ability recharge is the same, unless you're talking about like regeneration time. But if I get something instantly back, it just means that you would get it instantly back normally. And that is just how it is. Now, a really cool exotic is something like One-Eyed Mask. Now, if this guy shoots me, you see how he has a thing. I am now vengeful. If I now kill him, I get an overshield, and it allows me to go into the next engagement. Now, this exotic used to be very strong. It used to give you damage buff on top of wall hacks, on top of full health and overshield on kills. So, that's no longer the case. An exotic that's really good for solar is Hollowfire Heart because it just allows you to regen your abilities a lot faster. Now, I know I'm in Mayhem, but they would still recharge really fast, even though this is still Mayhem. I like the chest piece Crest of Alpalupi. I showed this off in my last video. If you know what this does, it basically allows you to heal when you place down your barricade. It's really nice, really handy. And it makes good things for good situations. An exotic I think I really like on solar is good old Vex Mythoclast with Path of Burning Steps. Now I'd say Rain of Fire is superior, but what it does is basically it gives you a chance of a damage buff on top of kills. Where is this guy? Oh, I'm blind. I did not get anything here, but let me keep trying to get kills. As you saw, I got Firewalker. And Firewalker gives me a damage buff, and the damage buff keeps increasing until I have ×5. So Final Blows periodically grants you an escalating bonus to weapon damage. You are harder to slow or freeze with stasis. When you break out, you take no damage from doing so, creating a burst of solar energy around yourself. And you know, it's a really good counter to stasis. Another is Phoenix Cradle, but this is based around team play. Soul Invictus lasts twice as long. Allies who pass through your sunspot are granted Soul Invictus and Solar Restoration. I'd say that's pretty good. Now, this is an exotic that not a lot of people talk about for a lot of reasons. And what it allows you to do is kill people through walls. I don't have clips of it, but I've seen it happen. Especially on Javelin, that was a one weekend. But what it allows you to do is this. Now you're wondering, what did I just watch? Basically, the strand thing and the Khepri's horn burst allows you to can go through some walls. So if you line it up correctly, you can basically make it go through the wall, and it will first hit him with the solar thing, suspend him, and hit him again with the solar thing. And there's literally nothing you can do about it except for take it and die. And I think it's a really cool combo. It's a very unique combo, and I wish we had more things like that. It's a little bit broken, a little bit, but you don't see it enough to be worried. Now this is the Rumble AFK bot. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. When you're critically wounded with your class ability energy, or when you cast a barricade, you create a sunspot at a location that has improved restoration effects. Basically, if I'm weak, I place down my barricade, I start to regen, and I can just... You know, it's really that simple. Look at my health. I don't have restoration. That's really awkward. But you get the point. Now this is a combo you're never going to see in PvP for obvious reasons. It requires heavy ammo, and it requires a useless exotic if you don't have heavy ammo. So unless they're really trying to do this, you're never going to see this. But what it allows you to do is make you immortal. Not the gun, but actually immortal. Now, I'm never going to take any damage from... I'm never going to run out of charge time. And if you look at my health, he shot me with 2 shotgun shots directly. And he cannot do more damage than this with his hand cannon. This is literally all he can do. And I can always walk up to him and just cut him in half like that. There's nothing he can do about it. And as you saw, I got my sword ammo back. It is basically an infinite thing where you can just run around like this. And this is really funny in PvP if you actually see it, because there's actually nothing you can do about it. I'd say it's definitely very broken, but it does require a useless exotic if you don't have heavy ammo, and it requires heavy ammo. Strongholds is a cool exotic. I wish I had more uses, but it sadly does not. That was my phone. I don't really think I have anything else to show off, but all I have to say is, if you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. And I'll do a bigger hunter video next, or whatever you want to see next. Remember to drop builds in the comments if you want to see something, and I love all of you, and yeah, I'll see you around. Goodbye.